life living and making a living can sometimes wear us out, grind us down, and dull our senses. So for a keen mind and a sharp contributive edge that can make it all easier and better and more productive, let's take some time to sharpen our axe. Stay with us right now for Life Talk.
Hello, I'm Gina Fitt, and you've either surfed to or purposely selected Life Talk with Bern Moses. Welcome to another in our series of ongoing verbal essays brought to you in this television format. It's certainly a pleasure to have you with us today. Bern, we've been talking about a variety of things over the last few weeks, and you told me today was a surprise.
Yeah, well, we hinted last week, in fact, a very broad hint, I think it was, that we were going to spend some time focused on you.
But I thought you were kidding.
No, I know you seemed a little apprehensive, but people ask constantly about who is that girl, who is that blonde, who is Gina, and I think it's time for the people to get a little bit acquainted and to get to know the person that I've come to know. And so I don't know that I have a lot of specific questions, but what do you do other than the show? That's something to start with.
Well, I'm in sales, and it's certainly been a challenging experience for me. I didn't start out there. I started out in graphic design, did that for 10 years, and decided I needed a new challenge. We talk about challenges on the show, and so for me to go from something that kind of had grown up with into an environment that's completely different. I'm selling product that's very technical in nature, something that isn't really my forte, but it was an opportunity for me to broaden my horizons, to learn about a whole new environment. It's been like learning a new language and a new culture, and it's definitely been a challenge.
I do recall you're being quite complimentary about your manager.
Yes.
As a trainer, leader, coach, counselor.
Yes. One thing that I found that's very important, I believe, in sales organizations is to take on the role of mentor and coach. It seems like too often in organizations where people are expected to perform with numbers, with a bottom line figure, the manager ends up being nothing more than the heavy who beats up on people and screams at them and demands results, and doesn't provide a lot of feedback, someone to talk to, someone to give direction, and also maybe to provide a framework on which to base the decisions and the actions that need to come before the results. And so I've been very lucky to have a manager who is a good judge of people, a good judge of character, and also has given us a balance. We have the kind of office where one thing that I've really admired and appreciated is that people have different roles in that office, and it would be very easy to divide us into two groups.
Oftentimes happens. Yeah.
Which oftentimes happens, and you end up having classes of people that's defined by their job, their title, not by what kind of value they have as a human being. And you almost get the haves and the have-nots, or the importance and the not importance, or the lords and the servants, or you get these kinds of divisions. And he's been very careful to give everyone the respect that they deserve, to make everyone feel part of the team, to be included, to make sure that no one is excluded from the, quote, fun things that happen, the lunches and the meetings, and the feeling important and relevant regardless of your position. And I think if more companies would take that into consideration, I know a lot of places where I have had the opportunity to call on people, or friends that I have will complain about, oh, well, this group of people gets all the perks. They're the ones that get taken out to lunch, they get all the free golf games, they get this and this and this, and we do all the work. And there tends to be often that mentality. So I think anything that we can do to minimize that kind of stratification.
Since we're being so complimentary, what is this fellow's name? I don't think you'd mind.
Well, actually, I'd rather not mention on the air without his permission.
Oh, so, okay. Yeah, I would think he would bask in this glory. That's cool. What's the name of the company?
It's an electronics distribution company.
Electronics distribution? That's fascinating.
Yeah,
you have to get his permission, because I'd like to, if he's that good, I'd like to have him on the show.
Okay.
Because I'll tell you, that is rare.
Yeah.
I mean, true leadership, management, mentoring.
And that doesn't mean we don't have our differences of opinion. And I think one of the things that comes from a good management is that people are allowed to express an opinion.
If everybody agrees, there's no need for everybody.
Exactly.
You know, it's just,
yeah.
that's
Yeah.
cool. Are you married, single? What's your status there, if you don't mind?
I'm currently single.
Oh, yeah?
I'm a single mother with 2 children. Yeah. So that's also a challenge. And I think there's, the divorce rate's now 50%.
Mm-hmm.
And so there are a lot of people in that boat today, a lot of people struggling to raise children alone and struggling to find in their lives a balance between work
Mm-hmm.
and family, and also our own needs for companionship and closeness with and connectedness with other people. And I see a lot of that in the industry I'm in. It's a very fast-paced industry, and there are a lot of single people, and it can become your life. And I think that's another issue that we maybe ought to address as part of a show. How do we find balance in our lives? I think that's a question that people are really struggling with.
Challenging.
How do we find balance? If I work 12, 15 hours a day, that becomes the only thing that I get rewarded for.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I die, what do I have to show for my life besides how many sales I made or how many widgets I built? And where do we get I think the fundamental human need that we all have for closeness and connectedness with other people? How do we bring that into our lives in a way that really is satisfying? And if we are parents, how do we instill in our children that same?
How old are the kiddos?
I have 2 boys,
2.
ages 8 and 12, and it seems to me like they should be 2 and 4, 2 and 6.
Mm-hmm.
They just have grown so fast.
I know you seem to have done a good job too, as I've met them once or twice, and they're young gentlemen. Sure,
Yeah.
They. You seem to have managed somehow, though, because you always have managed to be here and assist and contribute on the show. That has to be a challenge for you on occasion.
Well, I think one of the on one of our shows, and maybe on more than one, we've talked about being willing to take on commitments and have completions in our lives. And it's so crucial that we do step out and make a commitment. And if you have a commitment, you follow through with it.
That's what you do.
Otherwise, your word has no value. And how you think about yourself becomes tarnished, for lack of a better word. And if we say, I am a person of my word is good, then we do it.
Got a question. You were in graphics. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Isn't that fascinating? Now, is that computer graphics or actual art layout?
It was an evolutionary process for many people who were in the graphic design field throughout the 80s and early 90s. Traditional degrees and education was on a table using a straight edge and pencils and ink and the good old-fashioned way, and there was a real revolution as computer products.
Were you part of that?
Software, yeah.
Made the transition.
There was a transition there, and it was a very challenging and volatile industry for a while. And
I would have to suppose a lot of young women would be curious how you made the shift. In other words, how you went from that field and got engaged in a electronic equipment sales position that I know you're doing pretty well at, because I just know you're doing well at. What gave you the authority? What gave you the chutzpah to make that shift?
Desperation.
Desperation?
We've also had this discussion on some previous shows. You have to come to a point in your life where you're willing to step off the edge. And I heard a quote once, and I wish I could give credit to the person who first said it or wrote it, but I don't know who it was. But when you come to the edge of everything you know, and all that lies ahead is the black abyss, step off with confidence, knowing that you will either find a safe place to land or you'll be given wings to fly. And I think so many times in our lives we hold back and we settle for the mediocre life that we know instead of trading it in for what is possible. We are afraid that what we don't know is always going to be bad, instead of hoping and believing confidently that what we don't know or haven't experienced yet could be better than anything we've ever imagined. And it doesn't mean that better than we've ever imagined is without challenge or struggle or pain or sacrifice, because it almost inevitably involves all of those things. But the reward at the end is not just a financial reward. that's probably the least important part of it, but who you become in the process, the lessons that you learn as you grow, the character that you develop through the struggles. Again, that part of that entails being a person of your word. Also, just sometimes having survived. I know that for me, when I was many years ago, if I would have been asked what is the most challenging thing that you would ever want to imagine, it would be to have a group of my friends or people that I thought were my friends to turn on me. That ended up happening in a work situation. And I remember a meeting was called, and this was many, many years ago, and everyone started pointing the finger and saying she's this and this and this and this, things which were terribly untrue and hurtful and of a personal nature and not work-related at all. And I remember going home at the end of the day completely devastated, just crying. Like, how could they say those things? How could they think those things? How could it ever enter their mind? I'm not that kind of a person. And I'm sure we've all had experiences like that to some degree or another. But suddenly, it just hit me, almost like this light comes on in my head. This is the most horrible thing you could have imagined, and you're still here.
Yeah, it happened, and
it happened, and you didn't die. You're going to go home, you're going to eat dinner, you're going to go to bed, tomorrow you're going to get up. Life goes on. And at that time, I mean, it may seem like not much, but for me, that emotional devastation was the most horrible thing I could have imagined.
and the realization, the most wonderful thing you could have had.
The realization brought such freedom.
Yeah.
Brought such freedom. And you can apply that to a variety of circumstances. You lose a job, and I know so many people who have lost big jobs and big homes and big cars, and they've gone on to find something else, maybe more balance in their life, maybe another job, maybe realize that that wasn't even the job they wanted. And they were there because they thought they had to be, or they had to support that house payment. And sometimes losing the job in the house gave them the freedom to realize something that would end up being much more important to them.
Well, oftentimes they don't have a
paycheck.
house in the car. The house in the car has them.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, that's
Do
quite
we want to
common.
be a slave to a payment? Yeah. And everyone has to decide these things for themselves. And I also think we go through different changes and almost like steps in our lives. I don't think our challenges ever get easier. They seem to get harder. If you were to just say, well, this challenge is weighted at, on a scale of 1 to 10 as a 4, and this one would be a 6. But they seem to come in a stepping order, and our capacity to meet them has increased. So we're always just being pushed a little bit. And the challenges will come. There's a sailing book. You open it up. It's about learning how to sail. And the first paragraph says, don't seek storms. They will come to you all by themselves. And I think in our lives that happens. Maybe we don't always want to seek the storm, but we want to seek the high wind. We want to get to the destination. And the destination is, if you're Christopher Columbus, a new world, a place you haven't been before. But you know it's there, and you're looking for it, and you're not going to give up until you find it.
Yeah, and good captains on rough seas are made. So, and I have seen you mature in your job and here. I know if you could take what you've learned in your present job and challenge, okay, and take it back, this strength, to that place where you got into difficulty, that would have been a whole different experience.
Well, the
Much
thing
more
is
in command, I'm sure.
that challenge probably would never have occurred because I've learned people skills that I didn't have then. What sometimes people think of as being rude or standoffish may be fear, insecurity, a lack of knowing what to say. Maybe you don't say hello because you're rude and you don't care. You say hello because you don't know how to say it, or your throat is so dry the words don't come out. And we all, I think, get in situations where we're awkward and uncomfortable. But what we fail to realize is that person we're so afraid of may be just as afraid of us.
What other experiences have you had that led to your maturity that you have?
How much time do we have?
Hey, got another 18 minutes. I know you've had a whole variety of things that people need to be aware of so that they might venture off and try.
Yeah. Well, you know, I think my childhood had a great deal to do with what I've learned in my life. I grew up the oldest of 9 children.
Wow.
Yeah. And I remember...
The oldest of 9?
I'm the oldest of 9.
That has a lot of responsibility.
Has a lot of responsibility. And our family moved probably 23 times by the time I was 16. And so I had the opportunity to be in different schools with different classmates in different parts of the country. And you learn that the more people change, the more they stay the same. And everywhere you go, there are people who are going to be warm and welcoming, and people who are going to be a little rough and prickly. And
really? Because any town, USA.
And there might be some things that are unique that give that place its character and its culture. And you can appreciate those things instead of being afraid of them. You can appreciate them and look forward to what is unique and different. And I think that applies to the cultures of the world. I think that we need to kind of find a compromise here between cultural diversity and the oneness that makes us all human. And what kind of food we eat, what language we speak, what kind of music we listen to. Those things can be so varied and so wonderful and so much appreciated. But underneath it all, are human beings who have two great needs: to learn and to be loved. And I think if you look at an infant who is in their very primal state, and they're very transparent. These little babies come into the world so innocent and perfect, perfectly human, just like a blank page with all the characteristics to create an incredible life. And what is their motivation? What is their drive? Besides having their physical needs met, it's to explore their environment. Everything goes in their mouth or is touched or felt or looked at, and they are not afraid of anything. They want to learn. And the other side of that is they also need to be loved. And babies who are in orphanages and homes where they don't get attention will turn their face to the wall and die if they're not held and touched and loved. And those things don't change. The older we get, we still need to learn and grow in our lives, and we need to be loved and connected with other human beings. And if we have those needs fulfilled, we'll find a way to fulfill the other needs in our life. And often I think we get those backwards, and we try to solve all the ills of society by just throwing money at things instead of throwing heart at things and character.
You're not a native Sacramentan then?
I'm not, but I've been in California for 13 years, and which is longer than I've been anywhere.
Thanks, you're
so
a California
I consider
woman.
it my home.
Where did you get your graphic training?
That was something that I had had a lot of art background growing up. My father was an artist. I wasn't an Army brat, but I was an art brat, and our home was very artistic, always. My father taught at the college level, and we had a lot of exposure that way. And so this is a job that I grew into. I think we'll find that so many people have the job they have not because of a formal degree, unless it's a very technical position, but because of on-the-job training. You become the manager at the supermarket because you started out as the bag boy. And so it's so important that you choose your summer job. You know, if you're a kid. Is this what you want to be investing time and energy in? Because you may very well be here 30 years from now.
Oh, I've had a lot of young students
so many people
come in and stay, you know, and selling and stuff.
And I don't think we do enough as a society to encourage children to explore their interests and also to see where they can make money and where they can make a contribution to society. We don't do it. We have, you know, a school counselor who serves 300 kids, give you an hour of their time. But what do we do as a society or as parents to help prepare our children? Where are the apprenticeships? Where are all the other ways that we can learn and develop our skills and become a useful contributing member of society? And I think that there are a lot of people who are undereducated with skills and training that are on welfare or who are living on the very bottom levels of society, just existing, who could be making incredible contributions.
Who, you didn't pick up this languaging, these perspectives in art school or just this last few weeks or months? I mean, there's been some interim experiences in there. What do you credit to your perspectives? I mean, you've had, I mean, I know some of the things you've done, and I want you to share that with people, because I think...
I don't know that everyone would do the things I've done.
Yeah.
But I would encourage them to do everything that they can do.
Yeah.
And I would encourage people to take risks.
You read a lot?
Absolutely.
Tapes? Seminars?
We become like the people we associate with.
Mm-hmm.
And the information, the material that we put into our minds shapes our thinking. And if we're listening to whoever's on the radio, if we're watching whatever is on the television, or whatever movie is out now, without any regard for the relevance of that in our lives, it's either, we say it's idle entertainment, but it is subtly and very strongly shaping our character,
Mm-hmm.
what's acceptable to us, and how we live our lives.
Or it's mesmerizing us so that we're not developing anything.
Exactly,
it'll do
or it's
that
just
too.
filling us with emptiness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I think it has an effect. I think that whatever we're predominantly associating with does shape our thinking. I think it would be ridiculous for us to say that we are so invincible that it doesn't. And so for me, I was lucky to have two very strong parents who had very, very clear-cut set of values and ethics that we were raised with, and it makes all the difference in the world to know which way your world stands. If you make judgments based on whatever feels good at the moment, you never know what side is up.
What are you imagining for your future? What kind of telesthesia is there going on in your mind for the next 5 years or 10?
Well, Bern, you know,
say?
you have a little saying, and I've had this posted on my home on the wall in my office for a couple of years, and nothing contributes so much to the quality of a person's life as a steadfast purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't believe a purpose has anything to do with how much money you make,
Mm-hmm.
or how fancy the cars that you drive, or any of the externals, but it has very much and everything to do with service in making a contribution to the humanity. And I also like the saying that you either need to do something worth writing about or write something worth reading. And what are we going to do? What are we going to make out of our lives that other people would want to write about? Or what are we going to put in our mind to write and put down on paper that other people will read and that will make an enhancement in their lives? So I think that for us, for me specifically, my life has to be about experiences that I can in turn share with others. The world is desperately in need of principled leaders, and I think leaders can be in your home.
Mm-hmm.
And can be school teachers. It doesn't have to be a world leader.
Are you a musician as well?
Yeah, I write music and play the piano, and
you write music?
love to dance, and still very artistic and creative. Enjoy
Are you
things.
commissionable?
You bet.
Write me a song. You know?
Absolutely.
We need a theme song for the show. That's wonderful.
You bet.
Yeah. Do you play? You say the piano is your primary instrument?
Mm-hmm.
Do you practice every day?
No, I don't. We have to make priorities.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I'm a single
You're
mother,
busy.
so yeah.
You're busy. That's wonderful.
Some things suffer
Sure.
for the creation of other things.
I'm delighted we did this. We have a little bit more time, but I want to make a point that, what I've heard over and over and over again the last nearly 2 years now that we've been on the air, that Gina seems to ask just the right question, that I had in my mind. Seems very perceptive, and now perhaps they begin to understand why. I was nobody's fool when I asked you to be on this thing with me to carry the show. You ever notice at the end of the show, if I run out, I say, well, Gina, do you have anything you want to add? And it becomes your show.
Thanks, Bern. Well, since you mentioned it.
Now I can do that more often with more confidence, you see.
Well, it's really been a pleasure to be a part of the show for the last 2 years. And we've had some interesting guests on the show, and they've also been a great contribution. And I know that we don't do this very often, but I think we should make special mention of the people who come here with us. week after week and who contribute their time and energy to make the show successful, and whose ideas are so crucial to shaping the flavor and essence of this show.
I know Nick Shelley, the producer, I mean, I can't imagine the time and the energy and the effort, the thought that he's devoted to this, and professes that it's because of the benefit from the material and the relationships that developed, and so that's pretty nice. Yeah. I can see that, and I know Diane. I mean, I've seen her grow over the past 2 years. Jeff Norman's delightful, and there's going to be more as they come along.
Absolutely. So. Well, I think that's one thing that people need to realize is it hasn't always been easy for any of us to make our commitments to be here when we said we're going to be here. But every one of us has benefited and grown from taking on the challenge, and I don't think any of us regrets taking on this challenge and other challenges in our life because of who it helps us to become.
Well, are your kids proud of you?
Well, you know, kids take things pretty much in stride.
I can remember.
Oh, that's my mom. You should
I've
see
heard
her
that.
in the morning when she gets up. You know, she's just a mom.
If you say, "Who is that man?" My kid says, "My dad." It's like, oh, hey, that's the way it goes.
Yeah.
But you're a Sacramentan for a while, at least you'll be here, and as the show continues, and we'll see what happens. Is there anything else you want to add? Do you want the whole world to know? I know there's a lot you don't want them to know, but is there anything you want everybody to know?
I'd really like to challenge people from the bottom of my heart that if there's something in your life that's missing, go out and find it, because it's out there waiting for you. And it may be something as simple as getting up in the morning early and going for a walk so you can hear the birds sing and you can have a chance to collect your thoughts before the day begins. It may be something as profound as quitting your job and going back to school, or taking a night class, or instead of saying, well, I really need to spend more time with my family, getting out your schedule and writing that in daily, because they're not going to be here forever. And whatever it is that you're procrastinating in your life, how much more of your life are you going to sell out to the other things you're doing? We all have 24 hours every day to spend. If you had a wallet full of money, every one of us has 24 hours. And we look at the great thinkers of the world, the men who are accomplishing tremendous things. They have no more time than we do. Yeah. What are they doing with that time? What are you squandering your life on? Go out and make something happen.
This has been Gina Fitt, and I'm
Vern Moses.
Thank you, Gina.
Thank you, Vern.